Price of gas is fueling a new type of crime that's taking place when you least expect it.
To a story and a problem we've been talking about for a few years now.
Thieves sawing off catalytic converters from vehicles.
In Southern California are taking to some pretty unique lengths to avoid the price at the pump by drilling holes directly into gas tanks.
20 seconds. That's how long it took from when the suspected catalytic converter thief got out of the car until they were back in it with the sought-after piece of metal.
So I tried to be vigilant, but, I slipped up and they got me.
Coleman Ryan's catalytic converter was stolen early Tuesday morning outside of his Southwest Houston home.
Unfortunately, those are just a few of the thousands of videos that you'll find online, all discussing the same problem. Vehicle-related thefts are skyrocketing, and thieves are going after those things that are most easily reached and gives them the best value for the time that they spend. Those things are your gas and your catalytic converters. With the price of gas passing its all-time high, some people are resorting to stealing it instead of paying for it, and they've gotten pretty crafty about doing it too. So far this year, there's been well over 100,000 gallons of fuel stolen. And those catalytic converters, why would somebody steal them? Well, because of the very expensive rare earth elements that are inside them, namely rhodium and platinum. Thieves can get an easy $800 from a scrapyard. And to date, vehicle manufacturers haven't put any kind of serial number or identifying marks on them that would be used to trace these back to the original owners. So a scrapyard will just happily take them, pass them along, and make their own profit on them as well. So how big of a problem is this? Well, it's over a $2 billion problem. Just on the fuel side alone, it's estimated that there's going to be $2 billion stolen, and that doesn't include the cost of the damage to the vehicles that's caused by the thieves stealing the fuel. And those catalytic converters, it's expected that there's going to be over 100,000 of those stolen this year. And taking the cost of the replacement parts and the labor, that's an additional $150 million just to replace those. So how are they doing this? Well, for gasoline, it used to be as easy as putting a hose down the filler neck of the gas tank. But then vehicle manufacturers started installing what's called anti-rollover valves, which also prevents hoses from being put down into the gas tanks. So that option kind of went away. But the thieves got creative. Since they can't get to the gas through the top, they're going after it from the bottom. And vehicle manufacturers made it easier for them. When they switched over from using metal gas tanks to plastic gas tanks, all thieves have to do now is just drill a hole into the gas tank and drain the gasoline right out. And you're left with having to clean up the mess and having to pay for a new gas tank to be installed. Stealing your catalytic converters is actually even faster than stealing your gas. All you need is a saw and nobody watching. Notice these guys are working in broad daylight. And if you look in the top right corner, you can see other vehicles are parked nearby. So they're not in some secluded area where nobody can see what they're doing. So what can you do about it? The good folks at AAA had a few suggestions. First, they say, park in a garage if you have one. Well, I have one. No way I can put a car in it, though. Or when you're out in public, park in a well-lit area. That seems like a pretty good suggestion. But what about if you live in a city and you have to park on a street at night? You're too busy trying to find any space to park in. Forget about finding one that's in a secure location. Or when you park in a garage, find a spot that's near an exit or an elevator. When's the last time you had the luxury of finding a spot near an exit or an elevator when you parked in a garage? So these are okay suggestions. not very workable. So you could try to use these, or you can just pick up an UnderGuard. UnderGuard is an under-vehicle motion detection security system. UnderGuard has two motion detection systems built into one. The first is in the main alarm unit, which also has a built-in 120 decibel siren, and that's tethered to the satellite motion detector, which also has its own built-in infrared motion sensor. This communicates with the fob. Now, this isn't a fob like you have for your car that you use to unlock your doors or pop your trunk. This fob receives a signal from the main alarm unit when it's activated, which activates a siren inside the fob to let you know that there's something going on with your vehicle. There's also a reset button on the fob that'll communicate back to the main alarm unit so you can turn it off without actually having to go to the vehicle to shut it down. Taking a look inside the main alarm unit, you'll see quite a bit of technology in there. There's of course the 120 decibel siren that I mentioned earlier, and the very visible long life rechargeable lithium-ion battery. But then there's the electronics. Inside this unit is an infrared motion sensor, an RF transceiver which communicates back and forth with the fob, and it's got its own microprocessor which collects the information from both the sensor and the transceiver and makes the decisions of what to do with that information. The satellite motion detector has a single purpose, and that's to be an extension of the main unit. So all that's needed inside there is its own infrared motion sensor. And last but definitely not least is the transceiver fob. This too has a lot of technology packed into it. It too has its own microprocessor and RF transceiver. It also has a power management system for the battery, and the unit can transmit and receive up to 1/4 of a mile from the base unit that's underneath the vehicle. So how do you install it, and how does it work? First, identify the location of the catalytic converter, or converters if there's more than one, as well as the location of the fuel tank. Then take the two sensors that come with UnderGuard, put one by the catalytic converters and the other by the fuel tank. Make sure that the wire that connects the two aren't near any moving parts of the vehicle or might touch the exhaust system. Once the units are in place and activated, they will automatically communicate with the alarm fob without having to do any type of configuration work. And the system automatically arms itself 15 minutes after the vehicle is shut off. So in operation, if anybody approaches the underside of the vehicle, one or the other sensors will detect the motion, set off the alarm underneath the vehicle, and send an alert to the alarm fob. Just so you can see that UnderGuard is an actual working product, we'll do a brief demonstration of it in action. Note that there's two red LEDs that have been installed, one in the main unit and one in the fob, and those are for demonstration only. They will not exist in the production units. Now, under normal circumstances, the alarms would not reset themselves. These units were set up to only run for 5 or 6 seconds just for demonstration purposes. Normally, you would need to hit the reset button on the remote fob to silence both it and send a signal back to the main alarm unit to disable that as well. So now that we've discussed the problem and how UnderGuard can solve that problem, let's take a look at a few facts. UnderGuard comes at a low cost and offers a high potential savings simply from preventing losses. It's do-it-yourselfer friendly, and it's nearly foolproof and utilizes well-known and well-trusted technologies. And to discuss plans and next steps, the goal is to be in production for retail this holiday season, with a projected retail price being $49.99. Also, as of the launch of this campaign, there are no competing products on the market to UnderGuard. The way we'll use your pledge dollars is in two directions. One is for circuitry optimization. And what that means is that where we have multiple circuit boards inside a unit that causes production to take more time, we'll look to bring in a circuit designer that will take those multiple boards and create singular boards to replace them. And then each module will need to have its own injection mold for its outer case. This will be done once we have the circuits redesigned, because it may affect the size and the footprint of the units themselves. Then if we exceed our funding goals, we'll begin ordering any of the components that go inside UnderGuard that require a longer lead time to make sure that we have all of the parts and materials necessary on hand for going into production. And for reward fulfillment, rewards will be fulfilled based on the initial pledge date, and those rewards will be fulfilled prior to any production units going out to the general public. And as a bonus for being a backer, each of the reward units will carry a lifetime guarantee. That'll cover everything with exception of the internal batteries if they should need to be replaced at some point in the future. And with that, I'll say thank you very much for your patience, for your attention, and in advance for your pledge. And we look forward to bringing UnderGuard with you to the public very soon.